Have you ever had a morning when the world simply knocks? Not in a symbolic sense. As you pour your first cup of coffee, you get a literal knock that is piercing, conceited, and overconfident. My morning was like that. I didn't anticipate any company. Not after the week I had experienced. Certainly not with still wearing my robe and wearing my hair in a pathetic bun. However, the knock continued, unrelenting, as if the other person thought they owned the door. They didn't. I cleansed my hands, put down my drink, and answered the door. Ashley was there too. The new girlfriend of my hubby. The one for whom he abandoned me. While I was left to pick up the broken remnants of our 12-year marriage, he paraded the one around town. She was smiling. Smug. She looked as beautiful and lip-glossed as if she were the lead of her own bizarre romantic comedy. With a voice full of triumph, she remarked, "You need to start packing, Sarah. We're relocating." I blinked. A deed? She held up a folded piece of paper as if it were a sacred artifact. A contract? Paper for the toilet? Who knows? Did Mark not inform you? She cocked her head like a Disney villain and inquired. He now owns this house. If I were you, I would begin packing your belongings. We're assuming control. And that's when an odd thing happened. I remained calm. Despite the allure of the scenario, I refrained from screaming, slamming the door, or throwing my cold brew in her face. No, it felt colder to me. Sharper, clearer. I grinned. Not because I'm crazy. However, my lawyer was behind her cocky little victory position, just out of her line of sight. Ashley was unaware that she had simply strolled into the wrong house on the wrong day with the wrong woman. You see, last week was not when this began, or perhaps the previous month. It began years ago, if I'm being honest, and for heaven's sake, might as well. I used duct tape and denial to keep the marriage intact for years. Years of observing Mark becoming increasingly aloof and preoccupied. Initially, it was late at night at work. The phone was then affixed to his hand. The bathroom was filled with whispered calls. I acted as though I was unaware, until I saw them that night. It was intended to be a night for girls. Margaritas, venting, and acting as if nothing was wrong. I was surprised to see them in the corner of the restaurant, his hand on hers, laughing like if we hadn't had a laugh in a long time. And I promised that something broke inside of me. Or perhaps it reset. That evening, I refrained from confronting him. I returned home, silently, sat in the dark. I made a glass of wine for myself. I then began to make plans. Because Mark was going to discover the hard way that I wasn't made for show, if he believed he could take what was mine, humiliate me, and swagger off into the sunset with Ashley Barbie on his arm. I was made to be strategic. Returned to the door. Ashley continued to preach about true love, and it's time for you to move on. And she even put a manicured palm on my doorframe as if she already owned it. I about burst out laughing at that point. Rather, I took a step back and stated calmly, "Enter now." She raised her eyebrows. I could almost hear the stuttering of her inner monologue. That was unexpected. But she entered because curiosity is a strong drug. I chose wooden floors, and her heels clicked against them. I paid for the floors under the roof, within the walls that housed my victories, my struggles, and my memories. My lawyer moved in behind her. Be calm, quiet, an absolute pro. I shut the door. Then I looked in her direction. Ashley, I said in a kind tone, you should be aware of this. Her smile faltered. With a folder in hand, my lawyer came forward. In winter, it's as serene as a lake. The game then truly got underway. Ashley's smile vanished as soon as my attorney appeared. At first, it was tiny, hardly perceptible. However, I did see it. The slightest movement, like a tiny crack in a glass ready to break, at the corner of her mouth. What is this? Her voice was still on that false confidence high, but it faltered as she inquired. I remained silent for a while, simply let the tension to do its work, and let the moment drag on. You seem pretty sure of yourself, Ashley, I replied, tilting my head. As though you've already won. As if you owned this place. She gripped the documents more tightly. One more act of defiance before reality struck in. She straightened her back and raised her chin. She said. Mark gave himself ownership and waved the document as if it were a golden ticket. You had no choice. he continued. That he now owns this house. We made a check. I grinned. Did you? My lawyer, who had been silent the entire time, carefully turned a page in his folder and adjusted his spectacles. He was clearly having fun with this. He didn't even blink as he gazed at Ashley. Miss S. Harrison, he replied, addressing me rather than her. Do you want me to explain, or should I? Ashley was now fidgeting like a cat in a thunderstorm as I looked at her. All right, I said. She ought to hear it from an impartial person. He cleared his throat and nodded as though he were reciting bedtime tales rather than shattering someone's illusion. You see, miss, is it Ashley? He didn't hold off till she responded. Mark never intended for this house to be given away. Quiet. A dense, uncomfortable silence. Ashley blinked. What? This house has never been in Mark's name, he continued, pointing around us. Not earlier. Not when they were married. Not during the divorce. Not right now. She faintly went pale. Then, as if she could shake off the truth, she shook her head. That is untrue. Mark informed me. I interrupted. Mark lied. Her jaw dropped. Nothing was revealed. I picked up another set of papers from the side table. They were clear, legitimate, and extremely authentic. Between two fingers, hold them, I said. I owned this house before I ever met Mark. It was left to me by my grandma. Despite his repeated requests, I never included him in the deed. In our marriage, he had no legal right to it, and he certainly doesn't have one at the moment. Ashley opened her mouth, but once more, she remained silent. Only air. I stepped forward and continued. Whatever he gave you, whatever contract he waved in your face, whatever promises he made, it's garbage. Lawfully, ethically. In a practical sense, her expression changed. That flawless, photoshopped arrogance turned to bewilderment, then incredulity. And lastly, panic. Mark had misjudged me. Once more, traditional. I recalled all the small instances throughout the years, when he would take money out of our joint account as if it were his right, but would recoil when I asked for even one thing from him. Constantly acting as though what was mine and what was his was his. That was, after all, community property. When I persisted on keeping some things in my name, he used to laugh. Why is it important? He would inquire. We're wed. You own what is mine. However, that had never been true in reverse, had it? Ashley inhaled nervously. She reiterated. Mark said the house was his, as if repeating it would make a difference. She said, turning to face my lawyer as if he were the issue. He said he worked it out with the lawyers, as if he had committed a clerical error. With a groan, my lawyer snapped his folder shut. He was unable to resolve anything. He made an effort to provide false documentation, which is what you're carrying at the moment, I suppose. Ashley's pile of papers appeared to have turned to dust when she gazed down at it. Then she snapped, like if someone had flipped a switch. With wide eyes and a trembling voice, she whispered beneath her breath, "That bastard." I arched an eyebrow. What's wrong, Ashley? He told me this was his house. She whirled in my direction. You were thrown out by him, so we could move in and make a new beginning. I rested my weight on the door frame. And you trusted him. She clenched her jaw. She didn't respond. However, the gears in her head were grinding, and I could see it. What else had Mark lied about if he had lied about this? She looked at my attorney. So he has nothing legally? He adjusted his necktie. That is precisely what I am stating. Ashley blinked quickly, possibly indicating that she was about to cry, but she chose not to give me the satisfaction. She reached for her phone. I was aware of what was going to happen. She intended to give Mark a call. She would have screamed. She will discover that she had based her future on sand far too late. She believed that she was about to win. She was unaware that she was entering a lesson. With her fingers shaking, Ashley clutched her phone and browsed through her contacts, as if she were possessed. She breathed shallowly and sharply. She appeared to have just discovered that she had boarded the incorrect flight and that the aircraft was going down. I didn't stop her. I didn't blink. I watched the inevitable happen while leaning against the kitchen counter. She pressed the dial. Just one ring, two. Then, hey, sweetie. Casual and cocky. Mark's voice echoed through the speaker. utterly oblivious to the train wreck that waited on the other end. Ashley didn't take her time. You are a dishonest piece of trash. She blew up. Anger caused her voice to break. You claimed ownership of the house, that we were going to move in, that Sarah was thrown out by you. Quiet. Through the phone, I could almost hear Mark winking. Most likely in boxers. Most likely in the middle of a frozen pizza. What? Ashley's eyes glowed with rage as she wheeled toward me. Tell him. I grinned, sipped my now cold coffee slowly. With a gratifying clink, set the mug down. Hey, Mark, I said with a smile. We're having an interesting day, huh? A long silence. His voice returned, but it lacked confidence. Not even confusion existed. It was afraid. What's happening? For me, Ashley said. What's going on? She growled. As you instructed, I arrived at Sarah's residence prepared to move in. And guess what? The house is still hers. The instant his stomach fell, I could sense it over the phone. That isn't possible, Mark stumbled. I submitted the documentation, Ashley interrupted him. You didn't file anything. I was lied to by you. We had everything figured out, you said. We're starting afresh, you said. I arched an eyebrow. You mean everything? Oh, Mark. Just to stop myself from giggling, I crossed my arms. You didn't get the house, Mark. The business was not given to you. Even the joint account you attempted to drain was not given to you. You only received your vehicle. Ashley's tone was flat as she turned to face the phone. And that vehicle is what? A Honda that is 10 years old and has 3 warning lights? Quiet. Ashley laughed aloud. It wasn't amused. It tasted bitter, chilly. Oh my God, you truly have nothing. That was the time. The moment she realized Mark wasn't who she believed him to be, I could see it in her face. He lacked strength. He lacked intelligence. He wasn't safe at all. He was a phony. Worse? One that broke. Now, with her knuckles white from holding her phone so tightly, she walked the room. Mark, one sacrificed everything for you, she said. I had faith in you. I had faith in you. Desperate now, Mark's voice attempted to intrude. Listen, Ashley. Together we are in this. You dare not, she yelled. Don't baby me. You assured me that our home would be lovely, that everything would be okay. You claimed to have it under control, and you're telling me that we have nothing now? Her voice broke. She was falling apart. In real time, I saw her crumble like a wave smashing a sandcastle, and I had no intention of stopping it. I folded my arms and leaned back against the counter, observing as if I were in the front row of a performance I had been looking forward to for years. Mark's tone sharpened, more desperate. Come on, Ashley. Don't panic. It's only a hiccup. We can work things out. Together, Ashley snorted without humor. No, Mark. I got sucked into this mess by you. I didn't sign up to live with you in poverty and homelessness. She then faced me. And for a split second, I thought she was staring at me as if I were the bad guy. You orchestrated this, she charged. This is how you wanted me to find out. I gave a shrug. Ashley, I didn't make you come to my place without my invitation. You only did that. Her mouth parted, then shut again. She failed to make a resurgence, because all I had done was safeguard what was rightfully mine. Her voice was tight now, barely above a whisper, and she returned her attention to the phone. I ought to have known, she remarked. I wasn't loved by you. All you needed was someone foolish enough to purchase your illusion. Mark's voice trailed off. Please, Ashley. Click. She ended the call. She simply stood there after that. Nothing to say. Don't cry. Simply shock. Then she chuckled. A single, brief, bitter outburst. It's unbelievable that I fell for him. I shrugged once more. It occurs. She rubbed a palm over her face and let out a sharp breath. She turned and left through the front door without saying anything else. I didn't stop her. I also didn't feel sorry for her. She had already made her decisions. She was forced to live with them now. I did not see her go. Her sharp, irate, and unsteady heels echoed down the driveway, but I chose not to follow. I simply stood there with my cold coffee unopened next to me and my hand resting on the counter. Once more, the house was silent. However, it wasn't the same stillness that I had become accustomed to over the past 12 months. It felt cleaner this time. Completed. In my living room, my lawyer was quietly going through his paperwork behind me, as if he hadn't just witnessed a human tornado come apart. Well, that was entertaining, he replied, looking up at last. I gave a quick, dry, and honest laugh. She genuinely believed she had won. He smirked slightly, knowingly. When people believe the wrong person, that is what happens. He collected his belongings. He was led to the door by me. After that, we didn't say much more. Did not have to. He had fulfilled his duty. I had completed my. Ashley, on the other hand, was going to discover that entering someone else's life with a sense of superiority and falsified documentation did not equate to being a homeowner. I sat down at the kitchen table and gazed at my phone after he had left. The coffee had long since gone cold, but my mug was still warm where my fingers curled around it. Then there was a buzz. Mark. I gazed at the display, not surprised. Simply put, I'm exhausted. I wanted to ignore it, part of me. Let it ring. Allow him to wriggle in his tiny abyss of falsehoods and disintegrating illusions. However, there was another part of me that wanted to hear his thoughts, most likely the same one that had kept me married to him for 12 long years. Perhaps out of interest, perhaps resolution, I replied. Mark, what do you want? I spoke in a flat tone, calm yet cold. On the other end, his breathing was irregular. Crazy. Whatever you said to Ashley, Sarah, you must correct it. She's yelling. She claims that I destroyed her life. You made me appear foolish. In fact, I laughed, couldn't resist. Mark, that was entirely your own doing. Quiet. Then something shifted in his voice. Slipped into that pitiful, begging voice he kept for when we got into arguments. Listen, let's discuss. We don't need to continue battling in this manner. Sarah, we were wed for 12 years. I can't just be thrown away like I don't exist. And there it was, the line. I sat back in my chair and closed my eyes. Oh, I muttered. But you might discard me? I was meant to accept that even though you may leave, deplete our funds, and go with your small upgrade? But that's different, he snapped. I made mistakes. However, I was also in pain. We weren't content. That hung there for a moment. Then I asked him the one question that had been bothering me ever since I discovered them at the restaurant that evening. Mark, are you content now? He didn't respond. He didn't have to. I continued in a casual manner, as if we were discussing the weather. I got a call from my lawyer this morning. On the other end, he let out a quick exhale. Now what? Your request to review the terms of the divorce settlement? Dismissed. Once more, he snapped. Sarah, this is unfair. I was set up by you. All of this was planned behind my back. I grinned. No, Mark. I simply listened. I hung up after that. That ought to have been it. I should have heard from him no more after that. Naturally, though, it wasn't. After 2 days, the door was knocked on once more. This time, don't beat me. No arrogance. Only a soft, almost contrite tap. When I opened it, she was inside. Ashley. However, she appeared to be human this time. Not arrogant, not polished. Simply exhausted. She had smudged makeup. Hair is limp. Dull eyes. I remained in the doorway with my arms crossed. Ashley. She nodded, holding on to her purse as if it were supporting her. She said, I'm not here to fight. I just wanted to apologize. I remained silent. I waited. I was foolish, she continued, her voice breaking. You were cold, he told me, in charge. That you didn't back him up. She shook her head, and I thought, I believed that I was unique, that he wouldn't treat me the same way he treated you. I said nothing. You were correct, she muttered. He took advantage of me. My credit cards were maxed out. I used up my savings. She started crying when I begged him for help paying the rent. He claimed that I was too much to bear, that he was being held back by me. In an instant, Ashley had transformed into me. I let out a slow breath, not out of sympathy, not even confirmation, just understanding. So what? I inquired. You're rushing to him again? Her laughter was broken and resentful. No, I'm finished. She paused. I just wanted to apologize. I observed her, seen the discomfort, embarrassment, and subdued rage all fluttering on her face. And I believed her for the first time. I didn't say I'm sorry. However, I moved away from the door. Good luck, Ashley. She nodded slightly to me. She turned and left after that. And I did saw her go this time. Not because I was seeking retribution, since I was aware that she would never be the same. I wouldn't either. I had a glass of wine in my living room that evening. It was only myself, the gentle ticking of the clock, and a blanket like silence. Retaliation should feel louder, I thought. I imagined that I would experience a profound emotion when Mark reached his lowest point and Ashley finally recognized him for who he truly was. Joy, contentment, win. However, what is the reality? I had absolutely no sympathy for him. No more. Since I had moved on, I had already won. Because after everything he attempted to take from me, I had created something strong. He was still caught up in the same pattern of deception and justifications, whirling in his own quagmire. However, I had left it. I received a last update via email from my lawyer. A new credit card had been obtained for by Mark, rejected. He attempted to obtain a loan. Once more, denied. For once, I wasn't going to be the one to save his life since he was drowning. I raised my glass, took a silent sip, and said, "Good luck, Mark," to no one in particular. That was it. And that was all. I entered my store the following morning. My small store. My pride. Mark used to make fun of it, calling it a cute hobby, but now it covered my mortgage. It was my universe now. As I entered, sunlight warmed the wooden flooring I had restored myself, and the bell above the door chimed softly. And I felt totally at ease for the first time in years. No hearings in court. No desperate calls. I don't have any ghosts from my marriage hanging around. Only me. Complete. Free. I received a message from an unidentified number a week later. I could tell who it was from without even opening it. Still, I did. Mark. The first made a mistake, Sarah. I need your help. Even though I know you despise me. I was laid off. There is nowhere for me to go. Can we have a conversation? Please. I gazed at the TV, anticipating the return of the old emotions. Anger, sadness, bitterness. Nothing arrived. Not even a glimmer. I removed the message. That was the end of it. Not a drama. No words. Just finished. Ashley visited my boutique a few days later. She hovered close to the entrance, as if she wasn't sure why she was there. She now had a genuine change in appearance, stripped off, nearly pliable. I remained silent. Simply wait. She exhaled like if she had been holding her breath for a year. As she approached the counter, "I have a job," she declared. I arched an eyebrow. "Oh?" She gave a nod. "Assistant in marketing." "It's mine, even though it's not much." And I believed her based on the way she spoke. She didn't resemble the woman who had been standing in my doorway, grinning arrogantly and performing fictitious actions. She had the appearance of someone who had been humbled. Someone with a hard-won lesson. "Well done," I remarked. She laughed unsteadily. "To be honest, I don't understand how you tolerated him for so long." I grinned. "Neither do I." Then she paused, as if she didn't know how to express what she wanted to convey. At last, she whispered, "I know I don't deserve it, but do you think we could be friends?" I stopped. I reflected on how she had arrived that morning and insisted that I pack my belongings. I reflected on how she had grinned as if she were trying to replace me. Then I considered the current version of her standing in front of me, and I smiled a little at her. Not pals. However, perhaps one day, she gave a nod, purchased a scarf from my exhibit, made a cash payment. With the sweetest smile I'd ever seen on her face, she left, beginning anew. As I had. A year went by. The store expanded. 2 more locations were opened. Then a third. Every lease had my name on it. Every window has my brand. I moved into a new flat. Better, more vivid, mine. New acquaintances, new journeys. A fresh kind of laughter that wasn't heavy or forced. Then I met him again one afternoon in the fall. Of all places, at a gas station. I saw him across the lot, standing next to a dilapidated old vehicle with misaligned doors and a bumper held up by zip ties. As I was filling up my sleek, paid-off hybrid, he appeared thinner, weary, a bit disoriented. We looked at each other for a moment. He made no gesture, didn't grin, and I understood exactly what he was thinking at that precise time. She received everything. I also have nothing. The fact that I didn't win because I stole from him, however, is what he never understood and still doesn't grasp. Because I rebuilt, I prevailed. Since he attempted to take my history, I refused to allow him to take my future. I nodded slightly to him. Not much more. I then took off in my car. I never saw Mark again after that. After a few years, my shop grew to include 4 sites throughout the state. I had a group, a life. While I was still attempting to save a man who refused to be saved, I had no idea that such a peace could exist. I maintained a modest framed quote above my desk. Only one sentence. Moving on is sometimes the best form of retaliation, not even retaliation. And I did. I went on. And I didn't turn around.